Good morning. Welcome everyone to Tuesday Virtual Networkers. So great to see everyone here today. Hi Jade, look at her fancy little Thanksgiving spread. I love it. I hope everybody's had a great week so far. We're going to kick off with a 30-second intros. I know we all kind of know each other, but I think it's a good reminder, especially since we still have some folks getting used to each other and what we do. And so let's do that 30-second intro. Then I'll introduce Stefanie, who's our speaker today. And then after Stefanie, we will do our announcements. If you haven't done so already, be sure to head over to the chat box, put your first, last name, email address in there. And as always, I will send you a replay link and a PDF of the chat box so you can go through it later and get all the yummy links activated. So with that, I will ask Nicole to kick us off with a 30-second intro. I'll go real slow, followed by Stefanie. I saw that face, Nicole.
Okay, yeah, I'm practicing something new, so bear with
All
me.
right, let's hear it, girl.
See how this comes out. All right, are you feeling lost and struggling to move forward, undervalued or unseen or even unappreciated? Not sure where you're going or even what your purpose in life is? Maybe are you feeling a little unfocused, struggling to see what's next or what to do or even how to do it? Let's discover it together and explore where it is you are meant to be going in a playful way, as I help take you on a journey of self-discovery and get you started taking the next right steps in the direction you want to go so you can help live life to the fullest. Join me as we experience a variety of unique workshops that invite you to pause from the stresses of everyday life and explore your personal creative spirit in a judgment-free space, as we turn unwanted, unloved, and discarded into something magnificent while excavating your personal creative spirit. My name is Nicole, and I am a creativity instigator and founder of Tinkering. Thank you.
Good job. Good job. All right, who was next? I was so mesmerized.
I know. I don't want to go next now.
Stefanie and then Judy.
I am Stefanie Muscat. I am an entrepreneur, a nonprofit advocate, and an educator. I'm the CEO of Bavera, and we do nonprofit management and planning consulting for clients in the arts and culture space. I'm also a college professor in the University of Massachusetts system, where I teach business classes. And actually, what I'm going to talk about today is a sneak peek of something that I spend 3 class periods talking about with my students.
Very cool. Thank you, Stefanie. I want to welcome Anne and Leandra, who joined us. Welcome, ladies.
Oh, hi, ladies.
If Anne and Leandra and anybody who came in, go to the chat box, put your first, last name, email address in there, any links you want to share. We're doing our 30-second intros, and I'll call on you when it's your turn. So now I'll go to Judy, then Stacy.
Good morning. I'm Judy Kane, and my business is Aligned Consciousness, and I'm a mindset change specialist. I help people to relieve stress by taking out their head trash. I frequently serve as a resource for coaches, helping them help their clients get past the barriers that are keeping them stuck in those coaching programs. Judy Kane, Aligned Consciousness.
Thanks, Judy, for being here this morning. Stacy, then Sherry.
Hi, my name is Stacey Urick, and I live in New Jersey, just about 30 miles outside of New York City. And people call me the mindset flipper. I'm a coach, but I specialize in trauma, and specifically childhood development trauma when it shows up in your adulthood. I help women uncover what is keeping them stuck on that repeat loop of not being enough. Together, we get to the root, the cause, the reason for why they became stuck. We flip their mindsets, realign with their authentic selves, and see their lives through a new lens.
Yay, good job, Stacy. You guys are on fire with your 30 seconds this morning. I love it. Sherry, then Jade.
Morning, everyone. I'm Sherry Andrews, your small business and trademark attorney, and I'm going to flip this on its head because I have to leave shortly for a dentist appointment. So I'm going to tell you my announcement, which is if you have a business plan, when was the last time you dusted it off and took a look at it? Or if you don't have a business plan, maybe it's time you need one. I am offering in my Facebook group a free business plan challenge it starts the last week of November and runs to right before Christmas. If you follow along in the group, you'll be able to have a completed business plan before the holidays. And so I'm offering everybody that. If you're not already in my Facebook group, I'm dropping the link in the chat so you can join and take advantage of that free offer.
Awesome. Thank you, Sherry, and have fun at the dentist as much as you can. Jade, then Ann.
Hi, I'm Jade. I'm currently in Maryland. I help business owners like you who have an important message that they want to share with the world, and you have to get people's attention in order to be heard. So whether you meet someone in person or you're networking virtually, you've got to get their attention, and they have a very short attention span. So just a few seconds make a great first impression. Typically, their next step, they're going to go visit your website to get more information about you. This is an opportunity for them to, another opportunity for you to grab their attention and share your message. So we start with a communication pop. This helps you to grab their attention quickly, share your message, and encourage them to take the next step with you. So if you'd like a way to get more connections and increase conversions on your website, then connect with me so you can experience the communication pop for yourself. All right, I'm Jade Meyerhofer. Thanks. My info is in the chat.
Thanks, Jade. And then Leandra.
Good morning, everyone. Ann Hanrahan. I am a project manager with BGIS Critical Solutions Group. We are a data center commissioning firm. For those of you who don't know what data center commissioning is, no worries, no one really does. But essentially, we make sure that data centers, all the systems work together so the internet keeps on flowing. I am located north of Boston. So good morning.
Good morning. I know what a data center is because I'm married to an IT guy. And so I totally get it. Yep. Yes. And when the data center is not working,
I'm married to one too, Jill. It's
are
just,
you?
yeah, the world revolves around those blinky lights, doesn't it?
Yes, it does. Yes, it does. And mine works for HSN, QVC. So God forbid these ladies can't shop. Terrible. Anyway, Leandra, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. Good morning. I'm Leandra DeFeo. I work with Stefanie at Bavera, and I also have a background in historic preservation. And I'm also a full-time mom. That's my my other big role. I am also north of Boston in Massachusetts, and I'm just excited to be here today.
Oh, how nice that you're here, Stephanie's team member. Yay! Well, this is so exciting. Leandra, you're welcome to put your info in the chat box if you want. Stefanie will get the replay link too, so it's completely up to you how you want to do that. So ladies, thank you so much for being here. Just a quick shout out to Donna Kendrick, who's not here. She's in Texas at a conference. She's speaking, so let's send her some good vibes. And I call her JKC. Jen Klein Clark is still helping her husband. He's still not well, so let's send love to her today. So with that, I'm going to introduce our speaker, Stefanie, and then I'll have her take it over. Stefanie, till about 8:40 a.m. our time.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
All right. Stefanie's a real short bio, so let me just fire this off. Stefanie is a passionate and accomplished nonprofit professional who founded Bavera in 2004. Her boutique agency partners with clients to expand their missions to new audiences and create plans and processes from which growth and change is possible. Love it. All right, Steph, take it away.
Thank you. I'm going to attempt to do a screen share. So
All
this,
right. It's always that awkward, is it going to work?
this is always the awkward part. Talk amongst yourselves.
Give me a topic.
Oh,
It's all good.
go. Okay, can everyone see some boats?
Not yet.
Not yet. Okay,
Make sure you're sharing the right. There we go. Oh, we're getting closer.
there we go.
I see
Okay, now we
boats.
see some boats.
Yes, ma'am. You
Okay.
got it all.
So good morning. And thank you all for joining me today. As I said, this is a topic that I usually teach over a few different classes with my business students, and I was excited by the challenge of condensing it into a 15-20-minute conversation because we have some clients who would benefit from a little bit of shorter coaching. So I welcome any feedback that you have. Please let me know. We're going to talk about flexible leadership. And I love this photo when talking about flexible leadership, because as somebody who lives on an island and loves to sail, you often leave port with a plan and find out at some point that you need to adapt that plan during your voyage. And that is the root of being flexible in your business and professional lives. And hopefully this actually will work for me. There we go. So before I begin, and since I'm a newer member of Virtual Networkers, I thought I would take an opportunity to introduce myself a little bit more than the usual 30-second intros. I have a background in sociocultural anthropology. I did much of my research at archaeoastronomy sites in the American Southwest and an MBA. So I don't have a conventional background by any means, but it did lead me to become a museum director and then subsequently an entrepreneur. And as Jill mentioned, I founded Bavera. It was at my kitchen table in 2004. I was a mother of a preschooler and a museum director, and knew that I wanted to take control of my own life and schedule back from the board of directors. And so decided to do independent consulting. And that was 17 years ago, almost 18 years ago. And now we are an award-winning global firm with a wonderful team such as Aleandra. And we partner with our clients to expand their mission in meaningful but pragmatic ways through methods that are both measurable and sustainable. A lot of people can talk about planning, can talk about things like flexibility and a leadership, but don't actually have actionable items around them. So we try very hard to do that. And I am very dedicated to creating an inclusive, thriving space for knowledge sharing, for advocacy, for philanthropy within mission-driven organizations who support their communities. But it all began for me on a dig site at Chaco Canyon too many years ago to count. So, so over the last 2 decades, one important leadership lesson I have learned is flexibility. And the older I get, the more I realize how very important this is. Now more than ever before, we are facing change and complexity. The coronavirus pandemic has presented all of us with new challenges, new circumstances, new uncertainties in our home, in our workplace. Our lives have been morphing, expanding, shrinking, and change is happening far more rapidly than ever before. So what does the research show us about flexibility? And what does being flexible exactly mean? So there was some research done by 3 publications, which are noted there: the Financial Times, Harvard Business Review, and the Center for Creative Leadership. And executives in North America and Europe described change as being successful at it as adapting to changing external pressures, adjusting their management style, accepting change as positive, and that's a big one, revising plans, and considering other people's concerns during change, and that's another big one as well. Conversely, and this is my stubborn Stefanie, the inability to develop or adapt was the most frequently cited reason for career derailment among North American business leaders. It was the biggest reason why entrepreneurs stepped out of the workplace, the biggest reason cited most recently for things like quiet quitting. And so this ability to evolve and to adapt and to be flexible is certainly impactful of our economy as a whole, in addition to being impactful in our personal lives. So to understand flexibility, it is important for each of us to understand how well we individually adapt to change. It all starts with us personally. And so I want you to think about a few things. Do you accept change as positive? Do you see change as an opportunity? Do you adapt your plans as necessary? Do you quickly master new technology, vocabulary, operating rules? Do you lead the change by example? Are you taking into account other people's concerns? Can you sort out your strengths and weaknesses fairly and accurately? Can you admit personal mistakes, learn from them, and move on? And are you able to remain optimistic? Now, if few or none of these responses describes you, you are certainly not alone. Many of us get stuck, experience anxiety with change, have a hard time letting go, or simply don't know how to proceed in unknown territory, which can sometimes seem very intimidating. To survive, even thrive during change in your business, within your industry, in your professional and your personal lives, you must first lead yourself through an important process of transition. Now, this includes finding ways to help yourself feel more grounded amidst potential negative emotions, understanding the impact that change is having on you personally, doing some inward work, and understanding the impact of your behavior on others. So when you are involved in leading or managing change, either in your personal or your professional life, there are 5 core questions to answer. And I have suggested to my students and to Bavera's clients that this is a good time to break out the journal and do some writing in response to these changes. Work through them through journaling and through some meditation. So the questions are: what is happening? Why is it happening? How is this going to affect me? How is this going to affect others? And what's the plan for getting there? And so laying out exactly what that plan is, and even looking at some of the what ifs. I'm not a fan of what if scenarios. I have a lot of clients who get stuck in the what if circle, but there are some logical times when you're working through the plan where it's important to consider the various outcomes and understand what will happen as a result of those outcomes. So once you've evaluated your response to change, it's important to consider the way you view yourself rather as a model for others in your orbit as they embrace change. And so a change leader must be a visionary. They focus on today's results while also imagining the future, be willing to challenge the status quo, take calculated risks, and anticipate the unexpected. They need to be inspiring, sell a vision and its benefits, be passionate, model the intended change, and encourage those around them to join the changing future. Enthusiasm is also important. You need to maintain a positive, focused attitude that energizes others to overcome barriers and be persistent and involve others to collaborate. And wise just simply means that you exude acumen and knowledge about your area of expertise. I don't remember which virtual networker told me about the zone of expertise or the cone of expertise, but be able to exude that knowledge comfortably and confidently, and be able to anticipate and address issues as a problem solver. Now, if you don't have these skills, how can you improve your adaptation skills? If you want to improve your ability to change, there's some skills that you can practice to become a more flexible leader and more flexible in your life in general. So these are 3 important areas, and we're going to dive into each one individually. The 3 components are cognitive flexibility, emotional flexibility, and dispositional flexibility. And we have this guy here doing a split that I could not do for at least my mind's flexible, the body's not so much now that I'm in my 40s. So cognitive flexibility indicates nimble, divergent thinking, an interest in developing new approaches, the ability to see and leverage connections. And so these individuals readily learn from experience and recognize when old approaches don't work. Now, the next of the 3 is our emotional flexibility. And those with emotional flexibility vary their approach to dealing with their own and others' emotions, an area that sometimes leaders and entrepreneurs fail to consider. This falls into the emotional intelligence category. An emotionally flexible individual and a leader is comfortable with the process of transition. So they're comfortable going through that process that we discussed a few moments ago, including grieving, complaining, anxiety, resistance. I tell my clients often that they have to get comfortable with discomfort in order to move forward. And that's the only way that they're going to move themselves and their organizations forward, because there will always be that period of transition that you experience discomfort. Even when you're growing personally, you often feel discomfort before you reach that different space that you're moving towards. Leaders also need to have dispositional flexibility. And I love this. I just love the smiley face. Leaders who display dispositional flexibility or personality related flexibility operate from a place of optimism, but it's grounded in realism and openness. These aren't just cockeyed optimists going around saying everything will be okay. They will acknowledge a bad situation, but simultaneously visualize a better future. They are nearly blindly positive, nor pessimistic and defeatist. Now, as you think about becoming more flexible in your business or personal life, there are a few other tips to consider. The first is to be curious, to get curious, to ask lots of questions, wonder, explore, and consider before you judge and decide. There's a great, and I know that Alejandra has heard me say this many times, but there's a Navajo elder who we work with who says, listen twice as much as you talk. And I like that, in that you need to ask a lot of questions, but then you need to sit back and you need to listen and you need to take in the information. Don't get too attached to a single plan or strategy. Sometimes you need a plan B, a plan C, a plan D. With a coronavirus, I think I've gotten down to maybe plan G, H, so have my clients as results of things changing on the global landscape. So don't get so attached to a single plan that you are incapable of moving. Create support systems. Don't go it alone. Look to mentors, friends, coaches, virtual networkers, your trusted peers, your colleagues, family members, and others to serve as your support system in times of change, and encourage those around you to find those support systems as well. When I first started my business, somebody said that it's important as an entrepreneur to have your own personal board of directors. And I think that's very, very true of any business leader, any entrepreneur, even in our personal lives, to have that team around us that is that support system, particularly during times of transition and change. It's also important to understand your own reactions to change. You have to be clear about your own emotions and thoughts about changes so you can be straightforward with others. And immersing yourself in new environments and situations. And you certainly have to do this when you're confronted by change, but you can get practice by joining activities, meeting new people, trying new things on a regular basis. And the more you immerse yourself in new things and new environments, the more comfortable you become with the discomfort, the more comfortable you become with new environments and situations, and that bleeds into your personal and your professional lives. So with that final tip, and we do have time, I like to open it up to any questions or comments you may have. My contact information is here. In addition to work with arts and cultural organizations, we also have our Stillfest program, where we help grassroots organizations in a variety of different spaces free of charge. And that is funded by private and corporate donors. And so we are very, very much committed to ensuring that future nonprofit leaders can grow and change and transition their organization through flexible leadership. And thank you all very much for listening to my abbreviated lecture this morning.
You did a great job, Stefanie. If you want to stop your share real quick, and then we'll open the floor. First of all, I'm having total PowerPoint slide envy. I mean, my goodness, that was a beautifully put together presentation. I'm like, damn, I'm gonna up my game. Good job on all of that. So who has a comment, question, maybe a favorite takeaway? Stacy, go ahead.
So I found the presentation really interesting. And I guess, and I'm wondering if Judy felt this way too, like when I hear things like this, so often I'm wondering who's helping that person get underneath the hood if they're really having a hard time with that concept of flexibility, right? Because so often people can't be flexible yet because they have this deep need to control out of a need to keep things safe and small and whatever the reason is. So when you are working with someone that desires that flexibility, but really internally is having a hard time of letting go of whatever's keeping them stuck. How do you work with that? I'm so curious.
Well, we, as an executive coach, when we're working with our clients, we take them so far. And when we recognize that there is a point where there is a past trauma, there is something that is not allowing them to be flexible, that's actually when we connect them with someone like you, with someone like Judy, so that they can get underneath the hood. Because we are certainly not qualified to get underneath the hood. We can talk about flexibility in many, many different ways, but I know for myself personally, I had a trauma in my childhood that led to being a control freak. And so the idea of flexibility was not something that I even thought was possible in my 20s, 30s. And so I had to do some work with a great therapist, with some great coaches to get past that, in addition to having executive coaching, such as we do, to understand how it impacts my business.
Awesome. That's what, because I was like watching this and I was like, it all sounds good. And this is exactly right. Like that resilience and that flexibility is so important. But for some people, really, there is a real block. So that was really interesting. Thank you.
That's a great question. And that's one of the joys of this organization is in ways, maybe in ways you didn't realize, like, you know, Stefanie, Stacy, Judy, like, wow, there could be some referral opportunities or just educational opportunities that comes from these types of presentations. So thanks. And I saw your hand go up.
Hello. Awesome presentation, Stephanie. So I have a
known me
question.
for 20 years, so that's
Excellent use of commas. I was proud. So I have a question specifically when you're talking about flexibility with leaders and stuff. So our organization, we're essentially all field-based. We only have one small office, which I'm in, but everyone else is in the field all the time. But one of the things that we've been running into, you mentioned COVID, since COVID, is a lot of, I'm going to go ahead and call them the C-suites. They just keep talking like, oh, we need to go back to the normal. We need to go back to the way things were, blah, blah, blah. And everyone else is sitting there going like, no, like, this is not going to work for me anymore. I don't want to do this anymore. This doesn't work for my family. What's a good way to bridge that conversation when you have some people who are very locked into, I want to go back to the way things were because that's what I know, that's what's safe for me, and this is just how you do it. This is how we've always done it, and this is just how you do it. Is there a good way to open up a dialogue where people aren't getting so defensive that they can't even hear each other?
The way that we have found success in opening that dialogue is to use numbers. And so what we have done is we will show what the figures were pre-COVID, what they were during COVID, and show how the numbers under a flexible under change look, and how the numbers going back to pre-COVID look. And for most of those that we work with in the C-suite, numbers are a way to take emotion out of it. And to show them, I would say 99.9% of the cases that if they remain flexible and they make changes post-COVID that are reflective of some of what we learned during COVID, it shows in their operating budgets, it shows in their ROI, shows in their KPI, all of the various indicators that those C-suite folks really drill down on and really focus on. And so if you can show them through the budget and through the operating budget how a positive influence flexibility, we'll go with that word, flexibility is, then that usually pushes the needle forward. That's been our experience, because we have run into a lot of resistance. We have nonprofits, as Anne knows, she actually has known me for 20 years and usually edits my work. And so that's why she mentioned the commas. But we have organizations, some nonprofits that have $60 million operating budgets. So these are massive nonprofits. One example is the American Quarter Horse Association. They're functioning like a corporation. They are functioning like any other for-profit business would. They have a C-suite and all of that. And so when we get up to those nonprofits of that size, that's when numbers are a way to diffuse some of the tension in a conversation.
Did that help, Ann? You know, one change I think that we talk a lot about COVID, Stephanie, and certainly there's no, people won't go back to normal, but there's really more of a new normal that we need to grip into. But I think another change that is imminent is the financial, the economic changes. You know, and I'm not saying this is doomsday, or it's just information. We have a worldwide inflation going on. We've seen some large tech companies go through some downsizing, and you know, a lot of us are solopreneurs. Maybe we're married to spouses or partners that are affected by that. But I just wondering if you could, thinking from a solopreneur standpoint, how can we be flexible as entrepreneurs, especially with changes such as economic differences, times, issues, whatever word you want to put in there?
That's an excellent question. And that's one that I've dealt with myself as an entrepreneur. And for me, there were a couple of things, and I've seen this with other colleagues that are solopreneurs, and my husband is an entrepreneur as well, is first that idea of really looking inward and getting curious. And getting curious about how you feel about the change and whether you are willing to be flexible. I mean, first you have to be willing to be flexible. And there have been times in the last 3 years where myself and other business owners have gotten curious about what's going on in the business landscape and what's going on in our individual businesses, and there's some hard lines that we wouldn't cross. And so we would really look inward to say, okay, you know what, Bavera's values are X, Y, and Z. And so we are willing to change and morph and reshape as needed to meet economic pressures, so long as they go back to this mission and these core values. And having that root, that place where, as constant change has come up, as people have said, well, you know, you should add this service, you should not do this, you know, and all these different things have come flying in about what to do as a solopreneur. I always go back to that list of, these are Bavera's core values, and is this change compatible with these core values? And that's been very, very grounding for me during the process. And that idea of getting comfortable with discomfort, and whatever means helps you do that. And that was certainly something very difficult for me. My brother passed away when we were children, and that created a lot of discomfort. And it took me probably 3 decades of a career to get comfortable with being uncomfortable. And so working through with a coach or through journaling, however works best for that solopreneur, getting comfortable with just the discomfort that being a solopreneur means there's always transition. You are basically in a perpetual state of transition, which is why I go back to those values as being the thing that grounds me during this perpetual phase of unknown and transition, which is the life of being an entrepreneur. Does that answer your question?
It does have some great insight in there. Thank you for sharing that. Anybody else have a question, comment? I don't know if you noticed yet, Stephanie, but folks are asking for the copy of the questions about how well you adapt to change. You had given them verbally, but they weren't on a slide. So I just wanted to point that out. Couple of thoughts there for that. Any other questions, comments, concerns? Yeah, Ann, go ahead again. Oh, look at that how quick Steph responded on that one. Thanks, girl.
So sorry, Stephanie, I'm harassing you today. That's It's like a
I'm
normal
so
day.
sorry.
Yeah, it's fine.
It's a normal day.
So I'm wondering if in your very long career at this point of working with many different nonprofits and different organizations, have you noticed a correlation about size and flexibility? So sometimes I find that the smaller you are, the more flexible you are, the easier you can adapt, the faster you can adapt. And what I've noticed in my industry is that there's some data center firms that have become so big, so fast because of GDPR and everything. Data centers are going up like popcorn. That they're slipping in all sorts of ways. Like even when it comes down to APAR or just organization on site, that's sort of nobody knows what anybody's doing. And like you were so much better when you were even a quarter smaller. You know what I mean? It's almost like, but they're like, oh my God, there's so much money and we have to go out, we have to expand, and we have to hire all these people. And, the brain has basically just completely short-circuited, if you want to call it that. So, but I don't know if that's something that come up, because I'm sure when you're working with clients, they're all like, oh, how can we get bigger? How can we have more of an impact? And is there a pace that you recommend? Is there like a sort of, do you recommend like stopping at different points to really evaluate, like, we're good right here for now? Let's hold here for now and then take the next step.
Absolutely. That's a very good question, because most of our clients are going through change. I think most of you saw my crazy buffalo photos from a couple of weeks ago. And we are creating a master plan for the National Buffalo Museum, and they're going from a small organization to an international organization. And this is both a managed growth problem and it requires flexibility. Typically, when we are creating a growth strategy, it's one that is rolled out over 3 to 5 years. And we stop at various plateaus along the way to take stock and to look at the growth that has just happened, and to make sure that the leadership, that the staff, that the company is still healthy, that you're still seeing the cognitive flexibility, the emotional flexibility, and the dispositional flexibility. Usually the emotional flexibility goes first when you grow too quickly, because leaders stop considering those around them as the company grows really, really quickly. And so it's important, just from a managing growth perspective, whether it's your own individual company or a large company, that you build in these, as you're going up the ladder, that you build in these stops. And usually those stops in our particular plans are every 12 to 18 months to make an evaluation, to look at the key performance indicators, to make sure that not only the numbers look good, but to have conversations with the staff to make sure that they still feel good, and then make any pivots before you move on to the next level. So that's very, very important, because like I said, that emotional flexibility and even the dispositional flexibility tend to go away first when you're growing really, 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 really fast. And most organizations that grow very quickly actually end up at the end not being as flexible as they were in the beginning, because they just have done it too very quickly, and now feel like, well, we have to do this because we've just invested all this money to get to the size. And so now we have no other option, and flexibility goes out the window. I would say that, oddly enough, in the nonprofit sector, smaller nonprofits, and Anne may know this because she and I met working for small nonprofit 20-some-ish years ago, that sometimes small nonprofits are the most resistant to change, because you have founders, you have board of directors, you have all volunteer staffs who have such a tight grip, and it's been that way forever, and we don't want it to change. So we've experienced actually that larger nonprofits sometimes are more nimble and have more divergent thinking and want to develop the new approaches, whereas some of the smaller ones are just stuck and it's been this way since 1975. And by golly, we're not going to change it. So the size sometimes doesn't matter when it comes to flexibility.
Isn't that interesting, the smaller thing? Yeah. Judy, I was thinking of you because I know you do so much nonprofit work. Is that some of your
Well, it
experience?
was so funny. I was going to say before you got to that last part, the whole time you were talking, I had 3 entities in my head. My solopreneur business back when I was in IT management for Anthem Blue Cross, which was a big ship to turn, and my nonprofit, which is small, right? And so I'm listening to all this stuff going, oh, I can see, so it's interesting that 2 of my 3 experiences are in the hard to adapt category, because I could see, how that all played out and what the obstacles were, and what the impacts were of no change or no flexibility. Yeah.
Yeah, I see that. I work a lot with animal rescues, which God bless them. You talk about purpose-driven people. The Suncoast Basset Rescue, many of you know I have a Basset Hound. They want to grow. And it's like 1 foot on the accelerator, 1 on the brake kind of thing,
Yep.
Stephanie, so
Yep.
it's so funny. Does anybody have a comment or question for Stephanie? If not, we'll move to announcements. All right, thanks, ladies. Stephanie, great job. It was so good to hear a presentation today. Thank you so much for that. And if you have any more questions for Stephanie, she did have all her information in there. Schedule a coffee date. Yeah, Stacy, go ahead. Oh, you're muted, sweetheart.
I do have one more question.
Yeah, go ahead.
You were going to put that very cool fireplace link into the chat last time, and you did not.
It was right at the top.
It's right at the top. Yes. If you go to the top. Yep. It was at the top of last week's chat.
It was like the first thing in there.
Looks like you scheduled a coffee date with me, Stacy. So when we do our coffee date, I will share all about the fireplace.
This is like, screw flexible leadership. Can we just talk about that fireplace behind you?
Fireplace.
Let's get to the real important stuff. That was a great question. All right, so I'll do announcements and then I'll ask Nicole to go after me. So I already said people who aren't going to be here. Next week, we are off, ladies, for Thanksgiving. So please don't come. In fact, all of our US-based chapters are not meeting that week. So if you really feel like networking, get up at like 4 in the morning and go hang out with the European ladies, or just take the week off. That's that. And then also, I have a blog post out today if you feel inclined to read it. It's about body image, my own journey with that, revealing some thoughts about my own body image. So if that speaks to you, I dropped the link in the chat box for that. So now I'll ask Nicole and then Stephanie to go.
All right. So initially I didn't have any announcements, but since you said that we're not meeting here, 7, supporting and empowering the vision of entrepreneurial networkers, are meeting Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday of next week. And our topic next week is on self-care. And so if you're interested in joining us, I will drop the link in there. I run the Monday chapter and it meets from 11 to 12 on Monday. And come check it out, see what it's all about, join in the conversation about self-care next week. And Stephanie, awesome job.
Yes.
I enjoyed all of it. It was great.
Please put 7's info in there for folks. We want you networking. Go out and network. Stephanie, then Judy.
Oh gosh, I was thinking about the presentation, didn't think about any announcements. I will do a shout out to all the ladies here this morning, because some of you are new friends and new colleagues, and I'm very grateful to have Anne, who I've known for a decade, and grateful to have Leandra, who's worked with me since 2012. So it's wonderful to see all of you in the same space, and thank you for this opportunity to test drive this new presentation. It's very appreciated.
You're very welcome. You did a great job. Yes. Judy, then Stacy.
Well, I really enjoyed the presentation, Stephanie. It's, it just, the whole time I was just playing those images in my head. So thanks. Yeah, I've got a subscription program called Belief Relief, which lets you have a shorter duty list. I know people who keep items on their duty list and they'll keep it for months until they got enough to book a session. With this, you can have a shorter session every month and get that duty list taken care of every time and get the stress and blocks out of your life so you can move forward a little easier.
I love it. I love the Judy list, although I feel like it should be like, I think, an Angie's list, like these are the approved vendors. These are the approved beliefs to have, right?
You get to pick your own beliefs.
Pick your own beliefs, BYOB.
Oh, I like that. Yeah.
I'm on fire today. Stacy, then Jade.
Hi. Okay, so do you know someone who is either divorced or separated from a toxic ex that they have to share child custody with, that is seeking peace in the holidays? My friend Ina Hansen and I are doing a 4-week workshop starting November 30th. And the first one is free. The first workshop is free. Anyone can register who fits that mold. And the whole idea is that the holidays can be awesome, but they can also be super stressful. And we can't really comprehend how extra stressful it can be when you're trying to navigate and share custody of a child during the holidays with someone who's very toxic and tends to use the child as a pawn or something transactional. And both Ina and I are really well versed in this, both personally and professionally. We both specialize in narcissistic abuse within our coaching practices. And so the goal is to bring women together as a support group, because so often they feel very isolated, and share with them our deep understanding of their struggles. In the 90 minutes, we're going to be coaching 2 people every week to allow people to hear the probably common denominator challenge and get some perspective on how to navigate it. And then at the end of every single workshop, we're going to be offering up some self-care tips. So Ina specializes in EFT tapping. She's going to offer some tapping. I specialize in hypnosis. I'm going to do some guided meditation for people. And we're actually looking for someone to maybe even come in and do some breath work or some sound healing or something on one of the weeks. So if you happen to know someone, I'll put the link here in the chat, but it's really specifically for women who are divorced from a toxic ex or separated, but have to share custody of their kids during the holidays.
Ooh. Now, Stacy, have you been in touch with Margaret Martin?
No.
Margaret Martin, write that name down, virtual networker, right, Judy? Right, but then she does works with narcissists. Also, Donna Kendrick. Donna Kendrick specializes in helping women, mostly divorce with their finances.
Yeah, so Donna and I are doing the Q1 speakers together.
Yes.
So we're speaking at the beginning of December once the holidays are over. So I can speak to her as well.
Well, I can talk to her. And then Gabriella Bocanate is a sound healer in our organization.
Oh, good. Okay.
You need any of those names, just email me because I'll forget.
Yeah, I will. It's really, not to take up anybody else's time, but it is such an important thing because so many of my clients feel so sad and isolated because people can't really understand the complexity of it. And this is an area that both Ina and I work in quite a bit. So we thought it would be nice to gift them. And the idea is they can give themselves the gift this holiday season of sanity, support, and self-care.
Absolutely. It's a beautiful thing. Thank you, Stacy, so much. Okay, Jade.
Hey, so if you or anyone that you're connected with or work with has thought about having a mobile app for your business, we are doing 50% off the design and deployment of an app during this month to get businesses prepared to launch in 2023 with that. So if you know anyone, let me know. We have space for up to 5 businesses to make sure that we can accommodate everyone. So reach out, you or someone you work with would be interested in that. That'd be great. Thanks.
That's awesome. And make sure you look at Jade's website. She's got that pop-up thing there. It's very, very cool. Very cool. So I mentioned next week we are not meeting because it's Thanksgiving. The following week on 11/29, we're doing a business mastermind. So want to explain what that is, especially for our newer members. This is an open meeting. Anybody can come, guest members from other chapters. But what we do is we bring our burning question, marketing related, business related, mindset related, and we will mastermind together to find those answers. So I know like right now you're probably not worried about anything but turkey, but after turkey, if you could think about what questions you'd like to bring to us. It could be anything. You know, I'm a marketing coach. We got Stacy here for help with mindset. Steffi's executive coaching. Nicole has been in business for a long time and she's just so freaking creative. And there's tons of people who will come and we will figure it out together. So think about what questions you'd like to bring to that meeting on the 29th after Turkey Day. Anything else, ladies, for the good of the order? Anne and Leandra, thank you for being here. It's so good to see you again, Anne.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. Anything else you'd like to say? If not, we will conclude our meeting. All right.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Happy holidays, everybody.
Thank you so much, Anne. Thank you so much, Leandra. Everyone have a great rest of your week. Talk to you soon.